Good evening. The Board of Trustees of Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District is now convened in a committee of the whole meeting on Thursday, May 9th, 2013 in the boardroom of the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District Instructional Support Center, 10,300 Jones Road, Houston, Texas at 6 p.m. for the purpose of reviewing that portion of May 13th, 2013 school board agenda designated as action items and to hear designated reports and recognitions posted in the meeting notice as required by Texas law. No action will be taken at this meeting. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our television viewers to this meeting of the Board of Trustees. As the Cypress-Fairbanks Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. It is not the role of the board to make day-to-day operational decisions. The management and day-to-day operations of the district are the responsibility of the superintendent. We have policies and procedures in place to resolve concerns and issues. This is a public meeting of the Board of Trustees, not a meeting of the public. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items will not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. The meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. During the course of this meeting, the board may determine that a closed session is necessary. In that event, the board will meet in closed session to consider matters duly posted for this meeting as permitted by Section 551.071 to 551.084 inclusive of the Texas Government Code. These proceedings are airing live on CFTV Channel 16 and CFTV online on the district website. They will also be rebroadcast throughout the month on Channel 16 and available as video on demand on the website. For the tape to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that cell phones are turned off or in silent mode. Thank you for taking the time to join us this evening and for your interest in the Cypress-Fairbanks Independent School District. Our AVP students and advisor tonight are from Cypress Ridge High School. They are Sarah Johnston, Jackie Johnston, Louis Bracerio, Juan Galan, Peter Lay, and the AVP advisor is Kylie Harris. Thank you all for being here. The board will hear the following reports. The administration will report on the budget for the 2013-2014 school year. Presenter is Stuart Snow. Mr. Snow.
Thank you, President Covey, members of the board, and Dr. Henry. Last year at this time, we were uncertain about the outcome of the school finance lawsuit, as well as the state of the economy and the state of school finance for the coming biennium, and in particular the fiscal year for 2013-2014. In fact, the message that we were receiving from legislators prior to the beginning of the 2013 83rd legislative session was that school finance would probably not be addressed during the session due to the uncertain outcome of the lawsuit, and that there probably wouldn't be any, in fact, not probably, but there would not be any additional funding for public education. Now the lawsuit has been ruled in the plaintiff's favor at the district court level, and both the Texas House and the Texas Senate are both adding significant funding to public education in their versions of the state budget for restoration of at least a portion of the funding cuts that were made during the 82nd session. And I do want to thank Senator Dan Patrick specifically for his work on the School Finance Working Group of the Senate Appropriations Committee for providing a method of distribution of the additional funding that the Senate had put into their original appropriations bill. He provided a method of distribution that benefits Cy-Fair ISD and helps close the funding gap that we've been experiencing for several years in the past. But since we do not know for certainty what the school finance system will look like over the next biennium and particularly next year, we will have to wait until the session adjourns, until we would know for sure, obviously, and what we can expect in terms of what we would receive in state revenue. And so what we plan to do is ask that you adopt the 2013-2014 budget in late June at a special meeting. So with that being said, I would like to take you through what our budget plans are and our goals and our plans, but first of all, take a little bit of time, a few minutes, to review the actions of the legislature so far during this legislative session. As I mentioned, both the Senate and the House have included additional funding to public education in each of their proposed budgets. The Senate has proposed adding $3.275 billion for public education, that is comprised of $1.375 billion in its original appropriation, which was based on a projected statewide property value growth of about 2%. Actual property value growth is now a little over 4%, and so the Senate is putting the $1.4 billion savings to the foundation school program that is generated by that additional value growth back into the foundation school program. And in addition to that, the Senate has passed Senate Joint Resolution 1, which, if approved by the House, will be a constitutional amendment that will be on a statewide ballot to use for, among other things, water and transportation, but about $500 million that would come out of the rainy day fund, the state rainy day fund, to fund the foundation school program for public education. The House has projected, proposed rather, adding $3 billion for public education, that is comprised of the original appropriation of $1.5 billion plus a last-minute addition of $1 billion. And then they've added House Bill 1025 that would provide an additional $500 million in the current 2012-2013 fiscal year. The major points, school finance points in Senate Bill 1 are that it will move the September 2013 state payment to school districts back to August 2013. That was a move that was made during the last legislative session to save about $2 billion in the budget. It also eliminates the regular program adjustment factor that was set at 92.39% in 2011-12 and at 98% in 2012-13. So by the elimination of that regular program adjustment factor, it in effect increases the regular program allotment back to 100%. And if you recall, I've mentioned several times that that was the primary vehicle in which the cuts were made to school districts in the 82nd legislative session. Senate Bill 1 also increases the target revenue adjustment factor from 92.35% of current law to 92.63% in both years 2013-14 and 14-15.
Hey, Stuart, do you mind, can I interrupt you just real quick? Could you just explain what that RPAF, which I know you've had it up there, but I don't think a lot of our listeners know what that actually did. And it was, anyway, I just think it would be good information for them to understand.
It was a method to reduce the basic allotment and the calculation of the weighted average daily attendance for school districts and the calculation of their state revenue, the state funding. And by reducing it in 2011-12 to 92.39%, in essence, each of the school districts that were formula districts, not target revenue or hold harmless districts, but formula districts such as Cypher, it in effect reduced our basic allotment by a little over 7%. And then it was ratcheted back up to 98%, so we lost about 2% of our basic allotment in 2012-13. So that was the primary or the major factor in the reduction in the state funding during those 2 years.
Thanks, Stuart.
The target revenue, by the way, the target revenue adjustment factor was not impacted in the 2011-12 year, but was reduced from 100% from 100% to 92.35% in 2012-13. And so Senate Bill 1 then is moving that back upwards from the current level of 92.35 to 92.63%, which provides some additional revenue to those school districts that were on target revenue that would have that have been under previous analysis would have received a little bit less revenue in the total scheme of things throughout the state. Senate Bill 1 also increases the basic allotment from $4,765 to $4,875 in 2013-14 and to $5,078 in 14-15. The major school finance points in House Bill 1 are very similar to those that I just showed you for Senate Bill 1. House Bill 1 also moves the September 13 state payment to school districts back to August 2013. It also eliminates the regular program adjustment factor, bringing it back to 100%. But here's where the major differences occur. It reduces target revenue adjustment factor at the state plan, at the House plan, rather than increasing it in the Senate plan. So the House Bill 1 reduces target revenue from 92.35% of current law to 91.29% in 13-14, and then further reduces it again to 91.19% in 14-15. House Bill 1 also increases the basic allotment, as did Senate Bill 1. House Bill 1 increases it from the current level of $47.65 to $48.90 in 13-14, and again in 14-15 to $4,975. So the impact of all of that to Cy-Fair from both of those proposed plans, from each the Senate and the House, is that under the Senate plan, currently, if all of that is passed, then the impact to Cy-Fair is an additional $27 million in 2013-14 over and above what current law would provide. And then in 14-15, it would provide an additional $58 million over what current law would provide. Now, the House currently has not shown any interest in passing a bill for a constitutional amendment, and so it may be unlikely that SJR 1 would not pass, and therefore that's $500 million that would have to be taken out of the equation. And so that $58 million that we're showing there for 14-15 would probably be around $45 million in additional funding for Cy-Fair if that would occur. On the House side, House Bill 1025 would provide an additional $9 million in the current year, this year, 2012-13. And then in 13-14, an additional $29 million above current law, and in 14-15, an additional $42 million above current law. So with that being said, our goals that we had established for the 13-14 budget were that, as always, we want to adopt a balanced budget so that our expenditures do not exceed our revenues. We also want to preserve the quality of the instruction to our students and the services that we provide to our departments. And as we have talked many times every year in our board goal setting sessions, we think it's important that we provide a compensation plan for our teachers and other employees that will allow us to remain competitive in the marketplace with our neighboring school districts. We also desire to place a high priority on the additional funding necessary to fund for the student and staff safety and security. We need to increase our visibility in our instructional and our business technology by providing some much-needed additional funding in that area. And then we also need to protect the district's operational infrastructure by funding capital equipment purchases and to develop and fund a furniture, fixture, and equipment replacement program. That's something that we have neglected over the years, that we've been cutting drastically in our budget, and so we need to get back to that and to be able to support that, the schools in terms of replacing their furniture, fixtures, and equipment. This slide is a comparison of how our teacher salaries compare with the districts that we primarily compete with for teachers. The Texas Association of School Administrators, or TASA, conducted the survey and compares the salaries of teachers at the starting salary level, at the 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20, and the maximum salary. Each year, as you know, for the board goal-setting process, we emphasize the importance of recruiting and retaining quality teachers. And as you look at this schedule, or this slide, I know it's hard to see from here, but the salaries for Cy-Fair are shown in orange, and Cy-Fair's ranking relative to the other 7 school districts that are listed here are shown in parentheses beside our salaries that we're showing there. For example, if you can look at under the 5-year salary column, Cy-Fair ranks 3rd out of the 8 districts that I'm listing there. A current survey, by the way, of Harris County school districts indicate that those districts are planning to provide a salary increase in the range of 2 to 4% for 2013-14. And so we believe that in order to remain competitive for our teachers, we must also provide a salary increase as well. By the way, I do want to point out that, as you can see, the salaries for Klein ISD are blacked out because they did not want to be, they did not want them to be published, and but those salaries have been included in the rankings within the 8 districts that I'm listing there. And so our plan for the budget for 2013-14, as I mentioned, we believe that it's very important to provide a compensation package for our teachers to be able to recruit and retain those teachers. And we have although we're talking about our goals for the upcoming 2013-14 year, we also have some goals that are longer range. And one of our longer range goals for our starting teacher salary is that we feel it's necessary and important that we provide a starting teacher salary that is the highest in this area. And so our goal for over the next 2 years is to provide a starting teacher salary with, as long as the funding is available, but to provide a starting teacher salary of $50,000 by next year. And so that would be occurring over a 2-year period, again, providing that the funding is available. And so for 2013-14, we are proposing that we begin that process and that we provide a starting teacher salary of $48,000 and then work that increase through the rest of the hiring schedule. The average increase for all of those teachers is about 4%. We also want to provide a salary increase of about 3.5% for our hourly and professional employees, and a salary increase for our administrative employees of 3%. As part of our goals, we are planning and proposing that we provide the funding necessary to provide the safety and security of our staff and our students by hiring some additional Cy-Fair Police Department officers and being able to provide them with the related equipment and vehicles to be able to do their jobs effectively. Also providing funding for math and science curriculum coordinators to be able to help boost our academic results in those areas particularly. And then also to provide funding for additional technology analysts and specialists to be able to support our changing technology needs throughout the district. Also, we're proposing that we provide the funding for the opening of Pope Elementary School this fall. Those ongoing operational expenses that are not provided for in the construction of that school will be an ongoing expense that relate to the incidental expenses relating to the administrative staff at the school, the electricity, the bus drivers that are necessary to be able to provide the transportation, all of those types of expenses, including the property insurance. And so that elementary school is opening in this fall, and we need to provide the funding for that as well. Also propose to provide funding for needed capital outlay expenditures and funding for just general increases in dealing with inflation and the impact that inflation has and the impact that adding about 2,100 more students has on our budget, that we would need to provide the funding for that as well. And then the last item there is to provide the funding for the FFE replacement program that we are developing. That concludes my presentation on the preliminary budget for 2013-14. And as I mentioned, since we don't know how we will fare at this point in time in terms of the additional funding from the state, really can't provide you with any budgeted amounts. But when I come back to you next month at the later in the month, asking you to adopt the budget, then I would provide for you detailed information regarding the amounts of the budgeted revenues and expenditures. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Stuart, I'm going to kick it off and just tell you thank you for the presentation, and congratulations on getting that Star Award for first again. What is this, 4 years, 5 years in a row that you've done that? So under your leadership, we are just doing really well on our financial reporting and handling of our budget, and I really appreciate what you do there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. All right, start down here. Darcy, do you have anything? Dr. Ogletree, do you?
Stuart, are the proposals that, or at least our goals, hinged upon the actual, what comes out of the legislature? I mean, our desire for the raises, is it all hinged upon that?
It's hinged on a portion of what I showed you. What I have done in terms of developing a preliminary budget is taking a very conservative approach in terms of what may actually pass at the legislative level for appropriations. And so, in actuality, what I'm looking at and what I've based on the preliminary budget on is about half of what the Senate plan looks like at this point in time. The original $1.4 billion or $1.375 billion that the Senate had put into the original appropriations. So if we're able to get, we're still a little bit underwater with that, but something that we can handle, and if we can get some more from the legislature on state revenue, then we'll be able to provide everything that we talked about.
Thank you.
Mr. Jackson?
Stuart, I too would add my comments for a job well done to you and your staff. It appears as if we have no plans for any class size reductions, either across the board or at selected campuses. Is that correct?
That's correct. At this time, we don't have any plans.
I know that we have heard in the past that for certain campuses, an injection of a small number of staff, as small as 2 staff members per campus, had a very significant impact. And I believe that cost was about $3.2 million. We have no plans to reinstitute that either, correct?
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Nothing else? And let me throw one at Deborah. Deborah, and I know we talked about this, I think, last month. How many teachers do we have that are retiring this year?
Sharita, do you have those in front of you? Give me 1 second.
Approximately about 200 retiring.
Approximately 200.
200 retiring?
Yeah, we've had 613 throughout the year. Yes.
I'm sorry.
resign.
Okay, I should have said resign or retire. So how many total there?
613.
613. And then, if I remember correctly, you were thinking that we'd be hiring around 700 to 800 teachers this year, right?
That's correct.
Okay, I kind of wanted to clarify that. Okay,
Okay.
any other questions, anybody? We're good, thank you, Stuart.
And by the way, that net difference or the net increase in the number of teachers, I have already planned for that in the budget that I'm working on now, so.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Jackson?
I don't see anything in the budget for any enhancement for technology capital items. Is that correct?
That's correct. And we talked about the need for another look at a bond referendum to address capital items for technology as well as buses. And we made that recommendation at the board goal-setting session. And so we will continue that process throughout the course of this year to be able to look at that. Most of the capital items for technology would be purchased with bond money that we've essentially run out of the bond money for both technology and buses at this point in time. So in order to make any additional major purchases, then we would need to have another bond referendum. Now, incidental purchases of capital items for technology, we can certainly fund through the operating budget if the funds are available there.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, just one more thing, just to clarify for anybody that's listening, whenever you have a bond, you can't, if you decide that you want to use that for something other than what the bond was set for, you're not allowed to do that. You have to, if we had X amount of money for technology in our last bond referendum and that's used up, we can't take money from something else in that bond and put on to technology. Isn't that correct?
That's correct, and to even further limit us in terms of what we use that technology money and money that we use for buses as well, what we try to do is, not what we try to do, but what we actually do is when we sell those bonds, we set the bond, the principal and interest payments on the debt that relates to those funds for technology and for buses to more closely match the estimated useful life of those purchases, those assets. And so for example, bond money to build a school, then the amortization or the maturity schedule for principal and interest on those bonds would be about 25 years. However, a bond that we sell for technology, we know that technology is not going to last more than 3, 4, 5 years. And so we set the amortization schedule of the principal and interest to match the purchase of those assets. And we do the same thing with buses. We know that buses won't last more than 12, 15 years, and so we try to set the amortization schedule for the bonds that we pay to match those purchases as well. So, yeah, and anything that we sell in terms of new money bonds to be able to purchase those types of items, they can only be used for the purpose for which we set out in the bond order and is approved by the voters.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. So we're okay, everybody? The other two reports, one on Maintenance and Operation Department and the 83rd Legislature will be on Monday evening. The board will now review and discuss the following action items. 5A, the board will consider awarding bids and contracts and or authorizing purchase orders for the following items. Bank depository services. Number 2, cafeteria tables. Number 3, event staff contract labor. Number 4, musical instruments and equipment. Number 5, portable building, removal and relocation. Number 6, portable building, walkway canopy installations. Number 7, point-of-sale hardware upgrade. Number 8, point-of-sale back office and nutrient analysis software upgrade. Number 9, refrigerated trucks for food service. Number 10, school buses. Number 11, special education therapy services. Number 12, touch math teaching materials. Does anybody have any questions on any of this? Moving along. B, The board will consider approving construction proposals and contracts paid from bond funds to the recommended contractors and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents related to such contracts as follows. Package H, 2012, miscellaneous renovation at Food Production Center and Maintenance Center. 2, Package C, 2013, miscellaneous renovations to Cypress-Fairbanks High School. Does anyone have any questions on this? Mr. Jackson? Thank you.
Last week, Bob, John, and I took part in the board tour of Pope Elementary number 53 and the 179-acre site. While we were driving around, I had the opportunity to ask Roy a number of questions regarding the upcoming construction projects, and I thought it was worthwhile to repeat those questions tonight because I think the answers were interesting. So specifically, Roy, if you would discuss what the package C2013 primarily is for, and be sure to touch on the concept of piping, the roofing procedure that we use, as well as I think there were 3 schools for which we had fairly minor foundation work that we needed.
Our Package C project that's before you for consideration is work at Cypress Springs High School, and it includes the replacement of chill water piping and some domestic water piping that was installed during the original construction. We are having some trouble with the piping right now. We're doing some testing, but we have some corrosive action to the pipes that are springing leaks, and we've had issues with that, and we've been patching the pipe. So we're going to go in this summer and go ahead and replace that pipe. We are going to continue to do investigative testing on that piping to see if we have any potential recourse to get our money back for what we're going to have to spend to replace the piping. That piping right now is about 15 years old based on the original installation of the building. It is concentrated strictly in the athletic part of the building. The rest of the building, we're not having the leaks that we're seeing in the athletic department. So we feel we may have just gotten a bad batch of piping during construction, and we're having to look at that and investigate further. We also included in that project, we used to use plastic laminate toilet partitions, and when I came on board, we evaluated that, and we didn't think that was the best product to use. We now use a different type toilet partition that is much more vandal resistant, and we're going to be replacing all the toilet partitions at Cy Springs with the product we currently install in all our new buildings. And then we also including a lighting retrofit in that school as well. Right now, T12 bulbs are no longer being manufactured, and it's old T12 fixtures, and we're going to go in and retrofit those light fixtures to the T8s. And that will result in operational savings and obviously give us the ability to buy replacement bulbs to maintain the facility. In regards to the structural, on some of our previous projects that y'all have approved and we've completed, we did have some structural problems at a couple of our campuses that resulted in some foundation work that we had to do. Over at Matsky, we actually had to replace the 2 exterior walls, come in and replace grade beams and shore up with some additional piers. We had a similar situation at Owen in a couple of locations where we had to come in and repair the grade beam and install some additional piers. And we have some work in one of our previous projects, the Lowry project you're previously approved, that's got some grade beam work and some pier work we have to do. And that's all a result from what we can tell from the drought conditions we've experienced over the last couple of years. We continue to monitor all the structural issues if there are any as they're reported. We monitor those cracks. If the cracks get a little bit bigger, we bring a structural engineer in to evaluate the needs and then come up with a solution to solve the problem. In some cases, it just requires monitoring. In some cases, it may just require some caulking to solve the problem. And then in these 3 cases, it requires some significant structural work to shore up those exterior walls.
More?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the questions that Bob had asked that I think bears repeating, when we switch to the T8, that's more than merely replacing fixtures and lighting, which is no longer made. We're actually saving money by going to a more efficient form of lighting.
That is correct.
In addition, we know that many of our neighboring districts have had ongoing issues regarding roof leaks. Would you briefly review the roof construction approach that you instituted here within the district? Because we really don't have roof leaks.
We have very few roof leaks, and if we do, it's in typically where we have roof penetrations, and those are fairly easy to fix. But in terms of our roof membranes, we virtually do not have roof leaks. We implemented about 10, 15 years ago. We did a very serious evaluation of our roofing systems in the district. We came up with determining what would be the best roofing system that we should use from a maintenance standpoint, warranty, et cetera. And we selected a modified bitumen system. It's a 3-ply system which has a white cap sheet, which is a reflective surface, which also helps us with our operational savings on our energy by having that reflective surface on our roof. Hurricane Ike is a perfect example to share and be proud of for our district because of the quality roof systems we put in. We actually use 22 gauge deck versus 26 gauge deck. A lot of roofs that got torn off in Hurricane Ike will use 26 gauge deck. They didn't weld every flute to the structural joist. We weld every flute to the structural joist. We have lightweight system, and as a result of all that, we had no pull-up actions with all the winds we had out here in Hurricane Ike. If there was any damage on our roofs, which we had a little bit, it was caused by flying debris from wind, taking, products around the school site or from homes that blew up onto the roof and skipped along the surface, and we had to go in and do some patching of the cap sheet. But we did not have any trouble putting our school district back together after Hurricane Ike as a result of roofs. There were numerous school districts that had roofs sitting in their parking lot, especially closer to the coast, and we did not have that problem as a result of the systems we placed in there. We also have a 20-year warranty, and we have a very unique warranty that we negotiated, in that it's a complete system warranty. Most roof warranties are typically the plies only, do not include the flashings or even a lightweight deck. We've included the entire roof system as part of that warranty, so if any part of that system has any failure, we can go back to the manufacturer and get recourse, and they'll take care of the problem for us.
Thank you. But by the way, that trip was actually this week. It seems like it must have been last week, as busy as I've been, but that was actually this week. I'd also like to recognize what you and your staff do. Y'all are known as a leader within the state of Texas, not only for construction, but also for maintenance, and it doesn't happen by accident. And what you reviewed were some of the reasons why this district is a leader in both of those areas, and it's much appreciated. You also noted that on the piping, that you were looking at the lots, and you were also checking to make certain that we did not have that piping at any of our other schools as well. And I know you'll keep us apprised as that ongoing investigation takes place. And also I'd like to say thanks for arranging, Mark, for arranging the tour of the facilities. As always, these are always instructive. I know for myself, and I know Bob and John also appreciated it, so thanks.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one question for you, Roy. The post-proposal addendum number 1, for package C 2013 for Cypress Springs. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and how it evolved?
Sure. Part one of delivery methods we utilize that's allowed by state law is the competitive seal proposal method. Right. And we're able to select contractors not only on pricing, but qualifications and so forth. The contractor we're recommending, prom contractor, is actually the second lowest proposal amount, but they had the highest ranking based on the references and all the other criteria that our evaluation committee evaluates. Once we complete and determine who the high or the best offer is for the district, then we enter into formal negotiations with that contractor. And then we typically look through to see if there's any, mistakes, or if there was some ambiguity in the drawings, to see if there's any savings we can possibly get. As a result of those negotiations, our contractor agreed that he would drop his price, and it actually resulted in the price being the lowest proposer based on what's being recommended. And we're not losing any quality scope or reduction in project quality as a result of that negotiation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Roy.
Okay.
The board will consider approving the advanced courses for 2013-2014. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that? We okay? Oh, I'm sorry. You know about that?
I did.
Okay.
I didn't take them, but I know about it, heard about them. I was just curious on courses that we're adding for 2013, 2014. Physics 2, C dual is deleted. And is that, Mary, is that our decision or is that a state board decision?
Neither. It's, Physics 2C is still there. AP, just the dual option
Okay.
was deleted because we reworked our curriculum matches with the college, and the one teacher that we have that was able to teach that is not with us anymore. So that's just a minor little adjustment in the dual. But the Physics 2C AP is still a viable course on that as a waiver option.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Moving along, the board will consider approving the district advanced placement chemistry textbook recommendation for 2013, 2014. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Macias on this? Okay, we're moving along. The board will consider approving the budget amendments for period of January 1, 2013 through March 31, 2013. Any questions? Moving along, the board will consider approving on second reading additions, deletions, or revisions to district policies. 1, EFAA local instructional materials selection and adoption revise. Anyone have any questions on that? Moving along, the board will consider approving the tax refunds of $500 or greater for Cypress-Fairbanks ISD. Any questions? Mr. Jackson.
I did ask offline whether payments to a national restaurant was for food or a tax refund, and as it turns out, we weren't buying food for everybody. It was a refund.
It was a refund. Thanks for clarifying that. Okay. H, the board will consider approving the corrected minutes of March 7th, 2013 regular meeting. Any questions on that, anyone? Moving along. The board will consider approving the minutes of the April 4th, 2013 special call meeting. Any questions, comments? Thank you. Moving along, the board will consider approving the minutes of the April 8th, 2013 regular meeting. We have any questions or concerns? Moving along. The board will consider approving the minutes of the May 6, 2013 special called meeting. Does anybody have any questions or concerns on that? I don't think so, and I want to thank everyone on the board that showed up that night. Thank you very much.
And everybody did.
And everybody did. It did. I still have a Charlie horse in my leg on that one. Okay. 6, action items, non-consent. The board will consider approving superintendent's contract recommendations for school year 2013-14 for administrators, non-teaching professionals, paraprofessionals, and teachers to issue probationary term and annual contracts. We have no presentation. Do we have any questions from anybody on the board? Can we move that to consent? Oh, Mr. Jackson.
Can we just, since we have 2 new board members, would you just have a brief overview of what this section pertains to?
Deborah, are you going to?
I will. What you have, I think you received a printout of all of the current employees, and so there are over 6,000 employees that you are approving their contract for next year. It was an email. It was an email? Yeah, thanks for not printing it. You're welcome. So it's to approve the contracts for the current employees for the next school year.
Okay. Okay. Can we move that to consent? Is everyone okay with that? All right. The board will consider approving an update on the district's hazardous traffic conditions resolution, which pursuant to TEA requirements for the district to receive supplemental transportation funding, defines hazardous traffic conditions applicable to the district and identifies the specific hazardous areas which exist. Do we have any questions concerning this? Anyone? Mr. Ryan.
Harold, you and I talked about this a little bit, and I think y'all have really done a great job with this, by the way. Do the schools that are affected, have we already sat down and have they got the stuff to send out to where, that's probably the biggest concern that we get is parents that don't know. And what are we doing to inform the parents if this is approved?
Thank you for the question. We have talked to the principals, pending y'all's approval of this declaration. We have apprised the principals of the effect of this declaration. And upon your approval on Monday night, we have letters, or we'll have letters soon ready to send out to the parents that are registered in these zones, which will no longer be eligible for transportation.
Fantastic, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, the board will consider authorizing it, oh, I'm sorry. Can we move that to consent? Is everyone okay with that? Okay, thanks. The board will consider authorizing the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute the interlocal government agreement between Harris County Municipal Utility District Number 167 and Cypress-Fairbanks ISD for the providing of funds for the installation of landscaping and irrigation at Sheridan Elementary School and Thornton Middle School. Do we have any questions or discussion on this? Anybody? Everybody's okay with it? Can we move that to consent? Okay. The board will consider authorizing the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute the interlocal governmental agreement between Harris County Municipal Utility District Number 167 and Cypress-Fairbanks ISD for providing funds for the installation of landscaping and irrigation at Cypress Lakes High School. Do you have any questions or concerns about that? Yes, Ms. Bengoya.
The only thing I would say is I really appreciate the MUDs and other utility districts helping out with this kind of thing. It makes an attractive community for all of us.
And one thing we'll do, Mr. Ryan had asked me, we'll have them in here so that y'all can thank him at board meeting.
And this municipal utility district in particular has been very, very good partner with us. This is their this is their fourth project? Yes, this will be, when you add the two, it will be their fourth project for school to donate to. Fifth, I'm sorry, their fifth project, so we're very, very pleased.
May have to name a school MUD 167. Dr. O.
When they, will they be here Monday? I'm wondering. Okay. And I think it would be good if we could, for our community to see if there's a drawing, what they're going to do, the improvements, and so that we can get a full glimpse.
Yeah, Mr. Yost has been working hard on that, so he has some exhibits and things, so he can definitely do that.
Okay. Can we move that to consent, everybody? Okay. We will skip item 3E and go down to the board will discuss the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. We will need a motion to go into closed session. While we're in closed session, then we will be set up for a level 3 appeal.
So moved. Go into closed session.
Do I have a second? We're out of here. Ms. Bengoya, all in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, thank you. We'll be going into closed session.